Hey guys, Mark Allen, BHSpringSolutions LLC and BHSpringSolutions.com, back again for another session of High Power University. We're into part 3 of the 1927 Grand Rendement and its evolution into the high power pistol design, the modern day high power pistol as we know it. And before we start this session, I want to point to a couple of photographs, and hopefully these are going to show up in the video. But this is one picture of, as best as we can know it, of the 1927 Grand Rendement. And if you are so inclined, and I would encourage you as we continue on through this, if you Google U.S. Patent 1,618,510, you will go to the U.S. Patent Office website for the John Browning automatic firearm patent, filed June 28, 1923, and the patent was issued on February 22, 1927. Where are we going with that? Within that firearms application and within that patent, there are 45 different design elements for which John Browning was claiming patent rights on that handgun. As best as I've been able to dissect his entire application, there were a grand total of 28 parts or components involved with this handgun. That includes the 2 grip panels and the 2 grip screws. That includes the manual safety assembly that included 4 parts total. It included a magazine release just as we know it today, and you know it on the 1911, which is a 3-part assembly. The frame, slide, and barrel each accounted for 1 part. So this entire 1927 Grand Rendement, which we're going to dissect, contained a grand total of 28 parts. And I want you to just, as you see this in the video, notice that this handgun contains no controls, with the exception of the magazine release. No visible controls on the sides of the pistol. There's no slide release. There's no manual safety lever. There's no pins. There's no pin holes. This is, think about an automobile with no door handles. Think about an autonomous self-driving vehicle. Think about the thing that we've just only had for the last 10 or 15 years, that invention that comes off the wall and sweeps your floors for you every 24 hours or something, a Roomba or something like that. John Browning was way ahead of where everybody was then, and I have to tell you, based on everything I've seen in firearms design to date, he was ahead of where everybody might be right now. 28 total parts. Now, I'm going to hit you with a couple of things that's going to get your attention. This handgun, as he describes it in his patent application, and I refer to that because this is not speculation, this is not sixth-hand information, this is directly from John Browning's words in his patent application. 45 different design elements that were new, of his own design. The noteworthy part is there's only 28 components, but he received patent rights on 45 different design elements in this handgun. That in and of itself is math that doesn't even quite add up, but when you read this entire patent application, every single thing makes complete sense. This handgun, as you're going to see, the nose portion, that's classic high power profile. The way the grip frame is curved and contoured and it's angled to the slide, this is classic high power design work. The rounded trigger guard area, the placement of the trigger, the magazine release, again, this is all classic high power type pistol elements. What we want to do is, this is from FN, and this is hung on the wall in FN for decades. And we made a copy of it, and actually we have a copy of the actual original that hung inside FN. And this is how the high power pistol, the modern day high power pistol, turned out. So one of our objectives is, we're taking John Browning's 1927 Grand Rendement and his filings, his own artwork, if you will, that he filed with the United States Patent Office for the 1927 Grand Rendement, and we dissected this and what parts of this handgun show up in the modern day high power pistol. And I have to tell you, more of the modern day high power pistol is attributable to John Browning than Dieudonné Save. Dieudonné Save really pulled elements of this together to meet France's RFP, or their request for proposal for a new military sidearm for their country. I want to mention another thing about what we're going to be exploring here. Is this appears to be an accurate representation of the 1927 Grand Rendement. There is another item that's available online, and this is actually from the Browning Museum, or courtesy of the Browning Museum, and it is a photo of a 1927 Grand Rendement that was tooled in Utah, assuming by John Browning himself, and what his 1927 Grand Rendement looked like. Among the things it says, positive hammer and sear block thumb safety, also locks the slide, and then parentheses, no magazine safety. And again, this is from the John Browning's Firearm Museum, and it is a very close, exact copy, frankly, of this, which appears to have been a prototype of that very same handgun created at FN. And in the FN pictures, we know that this pistol evolved. It evolved to a hammer-fired model, which you see here. And then in this area right here, we see Fabrique Nasty, and now their typical markings, Browning's patent, recognized on the slide. So this was essentially that handgun, but made into a hammer-fired model. Now, one of the things I want to make you aware of right up front is about this 1927 Grand Rendement, along with the fact that John Browning poured everything that he had learned in his life into this design. 28 total parts, and if you can imagine this, if this had been produced, this reminds me of, and I'm going to back up 1 second, this reminds me of times in my life. Have you ever heard these stories where a great inventor somewhere came up with a carburetor for an automobile that could make your automobile get 200 miles a gallon? And then the next thing you hear is some oil company paid this guy $10 million for the patent rights for this carburetor, and it is never heard from again. That really looks, at least to me, at my age, it looks to me a lot like the 1927 Grand Rendement. 28 total parts. One of the things John Browning bragged about in this patent application is that this firearm can be completely disassembled and assembled at the factory with no tools. None. Not a punch tool, not a screwdriver. And I know exactly, if you're pretty quick, you're going to go, but there's a screw that holds the grip panel on, so it would require a tool. Actually, the slide stop that John Browning had designed for this handgun, which was an internal slide stop, the non-engaging end of that slide stop he made and designed into a straight slot screwdriver. That would have been onboard tool to have taken off your grip panels, as well as take out the magazine catch in the frame that is your magazine release. This firearm literally could be assembled and completely detail stripped and disassembled without the use of any tools. We've not seen anything like this, folks, and I hope that this gets your attention, because the man, John Browning, knocked it out of the park with this design in so many ways. And making this entire series a part of this videos of High Power University has been kind of a questionable thing for BHSpringSolutions to do, because we're going to be digging deep into a design that you can't have, that doesn't exist. And quite frankly, upon close study of this, John Browning did not give away enough information, either in drawings or in printed word details. I don't believe that it would be possible for anybody to blueprint this pistol, and that is what would be missing today, would be the blueprints for this pistol, which I'm sure are buried deep somewhere at FN and Browning Arms Company. And hey, everybody at FN and Browning who existed when this whole final effort of John Browning's went down, these people are all gone. So if there's anybody new blood at FN and Browning today that would like to make some royalties off of this handgun, there's a little upstart company called BHSpringSolutions that would gladly pay you royalties forever for the opportunity for the blueprints to produce this handgun. Truly, this is an engineering marvel. We're going to dig deep into it. There's so many elements in this 1927 Grand Rendement that Dieudonné Safe carried over into the modern day high power. And then when we start taking a look at the elements of the modern day high power, which this would be one of the earliest versions here. When we start taking a look and seeing what Dieudonné Safe looked in the rear view mirror to go get from the 1911 that went into the modern day high power pistol, which was also John Browning's work. The list of things in the high power pistol that Dieudonné Safe is directly responsible for becomes a very short list. And it's much easier to understand this way, at least it is for me, and how the high power came to be what it is. And we're going to be getting into all of the details of that in our next session. Thank you for joining us this time. I'm Mark Allen, BHSpringSolutions LLC, and BHSpringSolutions.com.